Hi, everybody. Welcome to Humanizing Digital Transformation, a roadmap to change and adoption. I'm your host for today, Selina Thompson. I'm the founder of Forward Transformation and I'm a digital adoption consultant. I'm going to just give you a quick heads up on what you can expect today, and you'll learn more about me later on in the presentation. But for now, just wanted to let you know that this is going to be a two-part discussion. We're going to focus on the why and the how to get into humanizing digital transformation. We are going to have interactions, so get ready for polls and Q&A. We will also have Q&A coming up towards the end, so get ready with your questions. And I'd just like to say in advance, thank you for your participation and your presence today. Okay, let's get started. So, why are we having this discussion? Well, as you may or may not know, digital transformation is very complex. It costs a lot of money to do, and it involves a significant amount of change. And usually the people who are intended to benefit from this change are often left frustrated and disappointed. So when we look at this topic, it's good to see where the challenges are. Now, the thought leader, WalkMe, digital option provider, they did a survey last year as part of their State of Digital Adoption report, and they interviewed over 700 organizations. And in their research, they found that 61% of leaders say that poor digital employee experiences are likely to contribute to resignations in their organization. Now, this statistic is quite high, although at least it didn't surprise me from what I've seen. And there's lots of examples of where the challenges are happening. You don't have to go far to see that if you look at news articles or thought leadership pieces, there's lots of examples of where digital transformation efforts are causing a lot of friction and a lot of waste. So, human-centric digital transformation. It's something that everyone strives for, but it can mean different things to different people. So if I can share my view on this, human-centric digital transformation is basically referring to prioritizing the needs of your end users, making sure that both your business outcomes and your technological advancements actually deliver human benefits. And by the humans, we mean the people in your organization and your consumers. But why are we not hitting the mark? Why are we missing this? Especially when there's so many benefits. And you don't just have to take my word for it. Now, Ernst & Young with Said Business School also did some research last year, and they looked at digital transformation programs that were successful and unsuccessful. And they found that programs who had prioritized a human-centric approach were up to 12 times more successful than the ones that didn't. And some of the benefits that were cited by taking this approach were improved employee satisfaction. Employees had greater morale and also productivity. There was a more engaged workforce. There was an increase in innovation and agility, more happier customers because the products were actually meeting their needs. And last but not least, there was business growth, which, as we know, is one of the key drivers for digital transformation. What is stopping us from taking a human-centric approach to digital transformation? You can just pop any thoughts that you have there in the chat. It'll be great to hear. Okay, thank you. That's great to see some of the answers there and thoughts that are coming through. Always interesting to get some real life examples and see what you're thinking there. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to just quickly move on now to the how. But before I do that, just a little bit more about me. So as I mentioned, some of you may have not long joined. So hi, I'm Selina. I'm the founder of Forward Transformation. I'm a digital adoption consultant. And I support organizations through helping them to embrace change and digital adoption, adopting their technology and having a digital first mindset. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from the UK. I'm from the city of Birmingham. And before I was doing this, I actually was working in fashion in the bright lights of London. But then I quickly realized there wasn't any money in that. And I transitioned into the corporate world, into working in internal communications, and then into technology and change management. And that is what's brought me here to the Netherlands. Not a sunny day today over here, quite cloudy, just like in the UK. I've been quite fortunate over the years to work with some commercial and not-for-profit organisations. So there's a few showing here. And in recent times, I'm also working as an advocate for women in tech. So I'm very big on helping women to get into tech, and in particular, non-tech roles in tech. Given my journey, I like to help people, women and men, to get into non-tech roles in tech. So with my experience, I just wanted to share with you some approaches that I've taken with some of the organizations to achieve a human-centric approach. Today, I'm going to walk you through human-centered design, change management, and digital adoption. So first up is human-centered design. This approach is good to take at the beginning of your digital transformation planning. It's based on the notion that you are exploring what are the needs of your intended end users. Maybe you've already had some digital transformation rollouts. It's good to understand what their needs are, what their preferences are, what their pain points are, their challenges, and what experiences are they looking for. So this stage is really all about having empathy and trying to decide what is actually people need, not just what's intended on the technology that you've purchased. With that, then you go through for another 3 stages that you'll see here. So this is where you're able to then define what the problems are. Do they match what you've bought your tech solutions for? Is there a way to align? What are the ideas? So the idea stage, what are the problems and what are the solutions that you can try to solve? And then with that, you should be able to prioritize what your prototypes are for your solutions. With human-centered design, it's not a one-off. So you'll start at the beginning and you'll go through these stages. You'll test them out with your end users, and then you'll keep revisiting throughout your digital transformation. Now, you may think to yourself, well, that's great, but how did this happen? So here I've got a case study for you where I've actually seen this work in practice. I was fortunate enough to work with an online travel marketplace. I can't say the name of the provider, but they have a big 3-year strategy where they want to really accelerate their customer experiences through using their tech services on their platform. So they had a compelling vision and a story. And then what they did was they brought together a section of cross-functional employees and managers to come together into some human-centered design workshops and look at what the needs were, what processes they should prioritize, and what are the ultimate customer experiences that they're striving for, and by when should they do that. And so with that then, the results, as you'll see at the bottom here, is that they were able to gain a strong buy-in from people because they felt committed to the purpose and what we're trying to achieve, collaboration, direction, and focus as well. The next up strategy is change management. I'm just going to start here with a quote that I'm taking from Forrester, which is that change is a skill to be built and not a problem to be managed. Often I find when I work with clients, everyone's looking for a magic wand to solve the problem, but actually change is a skill that you need to build over time because it's continuous change in digital transformation. So there's 3 strategies which I'm going to just walk through quickly with you now. The first one is ADKAR, which you may already be familiar with. It's probably the most popular one. ADKAR is by ProSci, change management thought leader. This one is good for driving change, bottom-up approach, so getting everyone bought in, grassroots level, through, and also focusing on having the proficiency as well of the users, so upskilling and knowledge base. And I'll walk through shortly what ADKAR stands for. Then we have the nudge theory. The nudge theory is based on not having a mandated change by leadership, but really tapping into people's preferences, what's going to drive their needs, what interests them, and giving them little nudges into making the changes. And then finally, the satire change. And this is based on having that emotional connection and engagement to change. So in practice, ADKAR is awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Everyone talks about communications. Of course, you're going to have the awareness. What else can you do to create the desire? So you might have some prototyping of your solutions, some demos that you want to share, new features, new functionality, making sure that the knowledge is there. So is there any knowledge transfers that need to happen? Perhaps you're decommissioning a technology project or a solution. Maybe there's some knowledge that needs to be shared with different people that will be the product owners. Ability, so not just a one-off training, but what's the continuous learnings that you can help with your users to become proficient. And then reinforcement, so going back over these 4 steps, reinforcing that change that is needed. For nudge theories, I've just listed a few here that I think work quite well. Having default settings, if you are deploying any collaboration solutions, making these the defaults that people have to use instead of it being optional and having to navigate through to find that login page. Training and support nudges. So if you have some solutions that have guided help, for example, tips and tricks that are already inside the application works quite well. Positive reinforcement. So anywhere where you can show early adopters using the tools, any positive experiences that they have, try and gather those and share those as you can across your organization. And that leads to social proof. So if you are using any enterprise social platforms where you can make posts, share experiences, likes and comments are always good as well as evidence of things that are working well. And then finally, with satire change, this is all about focusing on where people are now. So what is the status quo and how do you get them to the desired state? You will go through the stages of resistance and how to manage that, accepting that there will be some chaos. So some of these digital transformation programs do involve some chaos because you're moving from one state to another state along the way, really trying to work out how you're going to integrate from the new processes or the new approaches to the new, and then showing what the new status quo can look like. So this is where the emotional connection and really being connected to that through the stages works quite well. And just a little pause here on Agile, because I often get asked, well, how does this work with Agile? Should we be using change management with Agile? Yes, you can. Agile principles work quite well when you're taking a human-centric approach, because Agile principles focus on people first, flexibility, collaboration, and having those iterative processes, there. And the benefits are that you will have a more enhanced solutions. You'll definitely have your collaboration. It's more adaptable as well because you're working in small stages as opposed to one long transformation. And this should bring along the speed and efficiency, which I know a lot of IT leaders are looking for. So again, another case study to share with you. I was working with a map technology specialist, quite a long word there. I'll leave you to guess which one that was. We used a combination of ADKAR and nudge theory for collaboration tooling that they were rolling out as part of their digital workplace strategy. So we created the desire through roadshows, demoing the functionality, and also promoting the benefits for the users. It's a whole mix of people across the organization. So we really needed benefits that were going to resonate with them. Knowledge and ability, so setting up change champions, which you may already use, but key to this was blended learning. So not just having a one-size-fits-all learning approach, but different learning approaches for them. Default settings, which I mentioned earlier, and also using the company newsletter inside the app. So no more newsletters sent on email, and then having the social proof as well. And so the results of this were, again, buy-in, heavy influence, so peer-to-peer influence and leadership influence, collaboration, and very focused and targeted adoption as well. So not just up to the rollout and the implementation, but also past as well, continuing to monitor usage. Okay, so that leads us on to our Third strategy, which is digital adoption. And this is something that I really wanted to call out because we are seeing more and more organizations trying to focus on digital adoption, making that part of their KPIs and their goals. It's separate to change management. So change management focuses on having some structure around how you want to guide people to make changes. Digital adoption is really around, okay, when people are using the tool, what challenges are they experiencing? What interventions do we need to put in place? And what upskilling do we need to continue to do? And so just showing you here again from WalkMe in their report, they found that this is becoming more of a focus, with 63% more organizations now focusing on digital adoption and KPIs. So 3 strategies for you here, just quickly. Tailored training. I've mentioned training and learning a few times now, but it's really essential to make sure as part of your adoption strategy that the learning solutions that you're providing are not just putting everyone in the classroom, either virtually or on site, but really trying to meet users' needs where they're at. You're going to have different skill levels, different needs. So what are the different training options that you can provide? Really leaning on who are your change champions and who are your influencers. This can be leadership, but it can also be, again, people that are enthusiastic, positive about the change, and really want to influence their peers in their teams. And finally, monitoring. A lot of these tools now have insights, they have analytics. Try to use those to monitor the usage and see what your users are doing. And if they're not uptaking as expected, then at least you can pinpoint that in the data and make sure that your support teams and also your leaders, your change champions are also upskilled to support during the adoption phases. And adoption phases can last beyond hypercare, so beyond 2 months after an implementation. It can be up to 12 months, I tend to find, to really see adoption. Okay, so bringing everything together, not suggesting you're going to look at everything on this slide, but it's really just to show you how each of the strategies that I've gone through work together. So you will see the what, which is really the human-centered design that I mentioned earlier. So what are you trying to achieve? What is it? What are the problems that you're trying to solve? And how does that best help the needs of your users? When you overlap that with the change management and adoption strategies, so where you're really looking at the readiness, the implements, and the upskilling, this is where you get that sweet spot in the beginning, which goes back to your why. So why are you doing this? You're going to have the mindset, you're going to have the behaviors, the collaboration, which I've mentioned a few times, innovation, and that digital employee experience that you're looking for, a great one. So just finally, I appreciate I've really gone through this quite quickly. Key steps to getting a human-centric digital transformation success. So first step, having a compelling story. I haven't mentioned this up to now. I'm assuming that there is a compelling story and a business case for your digital transformation. Then having the human-centered design, which I mentioned, try to do this early on in your process. Select the right change management strategy for you. I've given you 3, but there are more out there. So do your research and see what's going to fit for your type of transformation. Don't forget to plan your digital adoption for after you launch the tools, and look at what KPIs you can use as well. And then review, run and repeat this process. So this is not a one-off. As we know, digital transformation is continuous. There's new technologies. You'll always be rolling out new features. So going through these steps and tailoring it to the different levels that you need it for really helps. And so with that, I think we're ready for Q&A. Let's see what questions we have in the chat. Okay, how can organizations balance the need for technical management with the importance? Okay, yeah, this is a good one. So, Sani, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right there. I think at the end of the day, at least from what I see, organizations are always trying to roll out digital initiatives in a rush. And actually, how soon do you really need to do this? So there may be a desire in terms of cost and productivity. We want this rolled out within a year. We want this rolled out within 2 years. But if your users, if the people in your organization won't be ready because they don't have the capabilities, they don't have the knowledge, that's where you need to then look at the human touch, especially in operations, which you mentioned there. What you tend to find in operations is that there needs to be more time for upskilling, also the transition in terms of what they're doing, before you can actually say, right, job done, digital transformations achieved. So I think it's really looking at the timings of rolling out the tech with upskilling people and the capabilities. Okay, and then Dr. Aaron Fernandez, can you share why some digital adoption strategies did not work and why? Yes, I can. So what I've tended to find is that one, adoption is an afterthought. I think there's an assumption that when you roll out a change management strategy, that's all you need to do. If you put people through the training, if you give them lots of communications, if you have lots of leaders telling them that this is happening, that's going to drive adoption. And that's not actually the case. Adoption really is understanding how users are working with your digital tools and services and products that you might have, and not looking at analytics as well. So again, there's a lot of data that we can be tapping at and looking into, but often as part of the implementation planning, again, who's going to monitor the data, who's going to look at that, who's going to look at what interventions need to be in place is often not thought of as well. So that's some of the things that I find. Okay. Let's see, some more questions. Got about 2 more minutes. Iris, how do you measure cross-collaboration and any other impact that are not numbers? Okay, so this one is a tricky one, but with cross-collaboration, it could be as simple as having a task in a tool, having 2 different teams across the organizations that have to come together and monitoring how they're using the tool. It can be observational, so sitting with the person or observing them virtually. You do have some tools that you can do that with. Also, again, going into the analytics of the tool, what were the peak times of using the tool? Did one team use the tool more at a certain time than others? Did some people not use that at all? Impact, again, is a tricky one in terms of not in numbers. This is where at least I found using focus groups and surveys tend to work. Surveys, sometimes people don't want to because it's not anonymous, but having some focus groups, leveraging your change managers, change champions to do that, should help with cross collaboration. Sasani, how important is to know everything in the Agile process? It's not. You're not going to use everything in Agile, let's be honest, in terms of getting your people ready. You will be using some of the principles, and that's why it's good to look at what you're trying to achieve and where the Agile principles can help you. So yeah, I do think knowing a few things and doing that effectively is better than trying to do everything and becoming like a Scrum Master, for example. I think we've got 1 minute left, so I'm just going to see the last question. Organizations focus on the short-term financial goals rather than the long-term. Yeah, that's very true. So I think it's probably a good way to close this, actually, is focus on the long-term and what you're trying to achieve, not just the short-term. Okay, I think we might be at the end of the session now. Thank you for your time.